What's the wildest cheating story you've witnessed or happened to you? You/Wallbags responded. My friend's mom was in a relationship with a guy for years and they ended up getting engaged and due to marry. The guy was a senior director of a company for which he traveled every week abroad for business. Eventually, the guy had a heart attack, and when my friend's mom turned up at the hospital, his wife and 2 kids were there also. Turned out he was already married with children and living a double life the whole time. When he went abroad for business, he was simply going back to his actual family. You/PJ Murphy responded. I knew a guy years ago that was a private investigator. Many times he was approached by a spouse who suspected their partner was cheating. He had a slam dunk strategy. He would suggest his client sign up for a course, whether a hobby thing or educational. The key was that the class would happen for a period of weeks, all on the same day of the week, and all at the same time of day. Then, while his client was in class, he would follow the spouse. Caught them every time. You/Saloli92 responded. A family friend's husband was having an affair for 20+ years, and that woman knew the entire time about his family. He was at her ranch one time and was bucked off a horse and broke his back. The affair partner called his wife to tell her and acted like everything about this situation was normal, and the wife had no reason to act all upset at the affair. Some people really just have no shame. Guy lived and made a complete recovery, left his mistress, and they stayed together since they were working on their relationship. He died a few years ago and the wife finds out he never actually left his mistress, just lied. You/Jebron Ilames responded. A friend of a friend found out that her husband was cheating when she got to the hospital to see her husband, who had just moments before been brought in by ambulance after a serious car accident, only to be denied entry to his room because his wife was already in the room with him. He had 2 simultaneous lives with 2 women, neither of which was aware of the other. You/Corn_Beefus replied to this with, you used to hear about this a lot back in the day. Men who traveled for work having 2 families. It's probably become quite unaffordable and unrealistic with so much information about people online. You/The Mystical Platypus responded. Elle used to go to a comic shop, and the comic shop owner knew all of the gossip in the area. Nice dude. Remembers all of his regulars and asks about you if he hasn't seen you in a while to check in on people. Lot of people in the area grew up with his shop, so he's got stories. Anyways, he told us about this story from some years back about this regular, who disappeared for a few months. Comes back one day, and the shop owner asks him, hey, man, haven't seen you in a while. Kind of like, where have you been? The regular was like, oh, LVE been getting divorced. I had to move, it was a whole thing. So naturally the shop owner asks, why are you divorcing your wife? The regular caught his wife cheating. He had picked up a second part-time job as pizza delivery man because he was trying to fund to take his wife on her dream vacation. All of the money he earned from that job was supposed to go into that vacation. He had been working this job for like 6 months. It was a whole secret. She didn't know he was doing that for her, because he was trying to surprise her. He was the pizza delivery man at the motel she was cheating at him with. The dude she was cheating on him with answered the door with her right next to him. He apparently didn't even go back to the pizza place. He quit on the spot. Went home, packed his shit and left town. You/Deleted responded. Roommate was sleeping with his boss who was married with a child. She would arrive at our house at 5:30 a.m, having told her husband she's off to gym. They would have an early morning shag, shower, get ready and go off to work together. They would also do it at work in the bathrooms. On weekends he would go do his food shopping and she would coincide her food shopping, so they would walk around the store together doing their shopping. He came home one night and sat my other roommate and I down and told us that within the next 6 months that she would be getting a divorce and they were going to have a kid together. Let's just say she's still married and he's got a new job. They were lawyers, so much for being fit and proper. You/L_can_not_with_you responded. Just got home from deployment, on an anniversary trip with my, now ex-wife to Vegas. We go to a couple Cirque shows, do some paigao, get a very fancy dinner. The whole anniversary spared no expense experience. She was passed out drunk and her phone was blowing the fuck up with like 20 messages from an unsaved number. So I looked. They were very romantic and sexual messages and pictures. She had been texting him the whole night. Even while we were at dinner she told him she wished he was there instead of me. She had been messaging him for months, my whole deployment basically. Well, I dug deeper, started reading other message chains. I found like 9 other affairs with both men and women. She was even a third in a throuple and caused the husband and wife to get divorced because she kept breaking the rules and fucking the husband without the wife there behind her back. Doug and Steve Butabi responded. My dad cheated on my mom with a coworker. She suspected him of an affair but didn't know for sure until he didn't come home one night. I remember walking in the kitchen the next morning and asking my mom where he was. I was only 10 to 11 years old by the way, and she goes, "He didn't come home last night." So she called him at work and he said he slept at a friend's BC, he had too much to drink. My mom called the friend's wife, she confirmed my dad was not there at all, and that's all my mom needed to know. It destroyed our family. My mom packed his shit and left it by the door. She got addicted to prescription pills afterwards and tried to kill herself. She only lived BC. I found her and called 911. After that she just left, took off, dumped me and my sister with my dad who was ill-equipped to raise 2 almost teenagers. So he met this super bitch who was recently widowed, they got engaged, and before I knew it I was living with her and I had 6 stepbrothers and sisters. Things only got worse from there. I enlisted to get away from it all. Whole thing fucked me and my sister up pretty bad. Hidep responded. Girl said she was approved for some class in another really far city after her grades in college were too good. The boyfriend paid all her travel expenses and gave her his credit card for this trip to this specific event. When she arrives on the another city she calls saying she won't come back and would live with this guy she met online and was chatting for months. Boyfriend went crazy to cancel the credit card he gave to her, found there was never any class and she was almost expelled from the college because her grades were terrible. She just traveled to meet the other guy and still made BF pay all her expenses. This happened about 15 years ago. I lost contact with her, but I remember she married the other guy. U/341913 replied to this with, had something similar happen to friends of friends. They decide they will be moving abroad, he is the breadwinner, she is a teacher so she goes over first to find a house etc. He obviously pays for everything. A few months later he quits his job, sells everything that is left and gets on plane to fly halfway across the world to his wife. Within hours of landing she tells him she has met someone and wants a divorce. U/Thed2685 responded. I was 32, she was cheating on me with her ex for like 6 months before I found out. The way I found out was she called me crying hysterically saying she killed him by accidentally running him over. I get all her belongings from the police, and find all the evidence on her laptop with them screwing. An argument over me was what caused the running over, police ruled it accidental and she brags about it in bars to this day. She also ended up having a kid with a guy that had the same name as me and spells it exactly the same too. Edit. The way she ran him over was interesting too. Purposely at first, but he was alive under the tire, and she had a sudden change of heart. She jacked the car up using the car jack but it slipped as she was attempting to pull him out, it was raining, and the car tire then crushed his ribcage and lungs, finishing him off. So technically he got ran over twice in the same night. U/RTY8 responded. High school sweetheart and I went off to college, different schools. While I was visiting I was walking around the house to the front door. Window was open and I overhear her talking to another high school guy friend of mine that is in college with her about how she doesn't know how to tell me she cheated. He caught her with a friend of his and was forcing her to fess up before he did. So that broke us up needless to say. She begged me to forgive her. About 3 months later I relented and had her visit me at my college. We went out that night. Food, drinks, and finally a house party. Before we were about to leave I went up to a friend's room to grab a bag of cannabis from him. 15 minutes later I come down, go out to the porch, look to the left, and there she is making out with some random guy we hadn't even met before. She literally met him 2 minutes after I went upstairs. She cried all night. I was crying laughing that she had so little self-control. I ended up having her sleep on the couch and she went home before I woke up. Haven't spoken since. That was about 20 years ago. U/Maleficent_.5445 responded. This happened in my village about 35 years ago, and it involved the best of friends who were a bit crazy. When one of the friends was going for the night shift at the local factory, the other would visit his wife. When the cheated husband suspected his wife of infidelity, he lied that he was going to the night shift both his friend and his wife to see what will happen. Of course he caught his wife and the friend in the act. When the husband burst in, his friend leaped through the closed window completely naked, leaving behind his clothes and dirty underwear. The husband took those soiled underwear and put them in his pocket, and he kicked his wife out of the house. The next day, he went all around the village showing the underwear and telling everyone that his wife was unfaithful with a ****. As the story spread throughout the village, it eventually reached the lover's family, who happened to be wealthy. His father and uncle went to the cheated husband and asked him to stop spreading the story. He agreed, but on the condition that they buy the underwear for a sum equivalent to about €1,000 in today's money. The story's epilogue is that the betrayed husband took his wife back, and they continue to live together to this day. They even have grandchildren. However, the friends never reconciled. U/1980 PZX responded. A guy I know who was married with a kid and another on the way went over to Germany as a civilian contractor to the army. While in Germany he had a fling and got the girl pregnant. He comes back to the States to his wife and doesn't mention it. The girl from Germany ends up calling their house and leaving a message telling my friend when their kid is due. Well, friend's wife hears the message first and shit completely hits the fan. They get divorced and he now has 2 kids by 2 different women that are 2 months apart in age. The wife ended up remarrying and is in a good place. I haven't talked to my friend in years. He met some girl online who was from the Philippines and went over there to be with her back in 2015, and I haven't heard from him since. I'm not sure what became of the German girl and his daughter. Total POS. U/Pupared Panda responded. A friend of a friend in the military was deployed to Afghanistan and came back with some injuries and gnarly PTSD, for which he applied for a handsome Veterans Affairs claim. A few months after he got back, he found out his longtime partner was cheating on him the whole time he was gone with a friend of his, who she then left him for months after his return. He separated from her and eventually killed himself due to everything. She got all his money because he didn't adjust his benefits before he died, with which she erected this awful-looking estate on the other end of town. I have to pass by this house every so often and it hurts so much every time. U/Ironfather responded. I was deployed with 2 guys. One was our medic, the other a mortarman. Both were married and the medic had some kids. He was dad to at least one of his own, plus he had adopted his stepkids. We got back from deployment and find out the entire unit is moving to Germany. The medic and his wife hosted a party at their house before everyone left. During said party, the mortarman and the medic's wife teamed up for beer pong. They were getting a little too close to the point a bunch of us were trying to wrap the party up before anything got out of control. The medic's wife was originally from Germany. She decided to get a head start on getting their house and family all set, moving over about a month before her husband. The mortarman, now in the middle of a divorce, was on the torch party for our battalion. He also got there early. The medic arrives later than expected due to a professional development school he had to attend. His house and family are set, but now his wife is pregnant. It's obvious to everyone that it's not his. He goes along with it for a while until the mortarman got drunk and called him. The mortarman admitted to fucking the medic's wife from pretty much the first day he got to Germany. He wanted to raise his kid. The medic got a divorce, fought for custody of his kid and adopted kids and lost. About 7 years ago, I talked to him. The mortarman and the medic's ex got married, lasted about 6 months, and got divorced. The mortarman disappeared from her life and she had no real help with anything. U/Swishy_Slidey responded. I worked at a ski resort and was riding the chairlift with a friend, talking about a mutual friend, Ray. I mentioned how much I like our Ray's girlfriend. Her name was Stacy. My friend says, no, Ray's girlfriend is Monica. We bicker for a minute before we have a terrible realization. I couldn't in good conscience keep this information secret from Stacy, who was expecting to be engaged soon and lived with Ray. She ran into Monica at a bar and confronted Monica, who reportedly said, I've been with Ray for longer and known about you the whole time. Stacy tried to gouge Monica's eyes and was carried out of the bar. Ray was found to have a history of this behavior, even having a secret child in another state that he refused to pay support for. I quit speaking with him, and sometimes wonder what happened to him. Both ladies are married to good men and are now happy, so there's that. Names changed for obvious reasons. U/IceTemp77 responded. I worked at a small shop. The owners hired a new guy. We didn't work in the same area but were friendly. This woman shows up almost every day to pick him up for lunch. First time he brought her over and introduced her as his sister. So one day he said he had an emergency and his sister was coming to pick him up. He would need to leave early. A little while later his wife calls and sounds like she is frustrated and is trying to reach him. I thought it was because they were going through whatever family emergency and helpfully told her, oh, he left with his sister. There was a long pause and she said he doesn't have a sister. I sputtered and stammered a bit and she thanked me and hung up. He never came back to work. U/Lelio Santero 579 responded. I also have my own story. I just graduated high school and left for the army, and my GF went to college. Between basic training and AIT, I was gone for just shy of a year. The entire time I was sending my GF money to be able to go out and enjoy herself. Her parents were really poor and she didn't have much income. Every weekend she would go out and party with her friends, as most college kids would do. This went on for a year after I got back. On the weekends she'd spend the night Friday, all day Saturday, and then go out Saturday night and stay with her friend. I drove her to her friend's house multiple times and even buy them bottles of alcohol. Her friend would come out of the house, say hi to me, then I'd drive off. Turns out the house I was taking her to was a guy she'd be fucking for the last year I was in training. They both used me and my money to party their asses off and fuck each other for the last year. And her friend was actually the dude's sister and encouraged her to cheat on me. So basically I gave her $8,000 in 11 months while she used my money, my gas, and my car to go fuck another dude, and in some twisted sick way she got joy out of using me to literally drive her to his house and use my money. She tried crawling back a few months later after the dude cheated on her. I laughed and told her to go fuck herself. U/midweek sadness responded. Friend was married for about 5 years, together for 13, and they had a baby. They had serious issues, but what bothered the wife most was lack of sex. He suggested an open relationship, which she declined until one day when she declared she wanted to be polyamorous. He agreed and she instantly dated a friend of them. Like, the next day. They did the whole "we're poly, that's not weird and we're all happy and stable, except our relationship" thing in their friend circle. Fast forward 4 months, she dumps her husband and kid. Manipulates the new guy to let her move in immediately, makes him pay for all her shit. Turns out she had planned to leave her husband for a while but wanted to have a new guy safe first, so he told him they had already broken up while she told her husband they were poly in case things with her BF don't work out. They got divorced 18 months later, any guy proposed to her not long after, they're getting married next year, and the new guy bought her a house while she didn't even pay child support for her toddler. U/rude_device responded. Had a child right out of high school. Got married. After some time, my wife tells me that she needs a few days away to unwind. She wanted to go spend some time with a female friend in Florida. We get her a plane ticket and I drop her off at the airport. I'm home working and taking care of our child while she's gone. So, she comes home and everything seems normal. One night we start fooling around in the kitchen and she seems really excited. I ask what got into her and she admits that she and her friend had messed around. Her friend had gone down on her. Kinda blindsided me. She never talked about being with another woman. She seemed to think that I would be okay with it. Over the next few weeks more and more details came out and it turns out that it happened more than once while she was there. She says that there are photos of the two of them if I want to see them. I ask who took the photos. The girl's boyfriend did. I start getting the feeling that he was more involved than she's letting on. The whole thing led to a loss of trust and fighting between us. I left about a year later when I found out that she was talking to some guy online. I found out later that he was 17 and she was 23 when they started talking. The guy moved in with her after I moved out. They break up after 6 months or so. While we were in the middle of divorce proceedings, took a while because she kept taking off to visit friends out of state that she met online, and I find out that she had another threesome with a couple that we both know. U/Lelio Santero 579 responded. I think it was on Reddit. But a year or so ago I read a really crazy story about a brother and sister who found out their dad was cheating on their mom, but instead of telling their mom they followed their dad to confront him on the notion that they'd convince him to break it to their mom. The brother and sister found out their dad had 3 separate mistresses all within the same state but hundreds of miles apart. Their dad's business trips was him just faking it multiple times a year to see his other children. They had something like 4 other half-siblings. The mistresses knew he was married but were unaware of each other. Instead of confronting their mother, the 2 kids and their father decided it was best to never tell their mother. Years passed by and the guilt of it got too much to bear for the daughter and she told her mom. The 2 kids' mother ended up taking her life via alcohol and prescription pills. The death of their mother destroyed the family and they all went no contact. I don't entirely remember if it was here on Reddit or some random thing I found on the internet, but I remember reading this a while back and thinking to myself how shit of a situation the whole thing was. U/confident_bus_7614 responded. My ex-fiancée went to a New Year's party while I was napping. She partnered up with the best friend of her best friend's husband playing cornhole and he proceeded to grab her us all night. When I got to the party no one said anything to me, but there was a girl there that had an odd look on her face when my ex introduced me as her fiancé. 2 days later I went on a fishing trip and she went to his house and fucked him. When I got back we both came down with COVID. On the 3rd day of quarantining, her best friend called her and told her she had to tell me or she was going to send me an anonymous letter telling me. So she told me. The same best friend that encouraged the ass grabbing at the party, the same best friend that went drinking and allowed my ex to drive drunk to fuck her husband's sober best friend. The same trashy ex I never liked and tried to get my ex away from. After the cheating, I stupidly tried to make it work. I gave her an ultimatum, either cut ties with the best friend or I'm gone. She refused. Our couple's therapist said she shouldn't have to. We only lasted like 2 more months when a guy she fucked while we were split up a few years earlier texted her while he was conveniently at a bar across the street from us. After all this she got on FB and said I never cheated on him, you can literally ask my best friend, and that piece of trash commented agreeing. Thank you for watching. If you like this video you might enjoy the rest of my content, check it out.